Cloud Radio 69, and this ever-enfranchising mode of thinking, deeply or slowly or fastly or whatever you want to call it, because there's so many ways to do this. I'm here, the Death King of apparatus, and if you haven't been scared, you haven't been in love, as I've said. And it's true. So, what do I consider now? Do I consider it all? Or do I consider this small life force of life, stronger in me than the desire for death? True. And because I guess you could say that someone who fears death, or is afraid of death, or is having death on their mind all the time, isn't somebody who has any not appreciation in life, but wants any of their energy or force to be in life. They want it to be in death. And when I think about, it's the people around you. When you look at it, it's not the people around you. It's only so much of the people around you, I think in a lot of ways people say that you have to make somebody happy around you. Well, the thing is, what if they don't? There's a big difference. When you look at it from a certain perspective, you can be like the Hindu, the Buddhist. You can be in those modes, and you could have this kind of acceptance of the people around you. But no matter what, if they're not accepting you, it's not about being rebellious or complying with them. That's not going to fix the issue. We've done that thousands of times, and guess what's happened? Roman Empire fell. There you go. If that's the only answer you can have, East or West or whatever philosophy or psychology or religious view or spirituality you carry, at that point, you either have to do it or not do it. You can't think about the results of what other people think of you. Oh, well, this person's just trying to rebel against me. Maybe it's not about that. Maybe that they personally do not agree with you. And a lot of people hold that against people. And they always say, oh, that person's just rebelling against me. What if they truly don't believe you? Even if you're right, you're wrong to them. It doesn't matter if you're right. And to be fair, that's true. The force of life in me is invigorating. It's desire. And it's desire I carry for everything that I do. Even you, Pink Cloud Radio, and all the listeners out there. So this means that I can't base my themes or ideas or voice off somebody else. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't have influence from other people. That happens. But that doesn't mean that I carry the same obstruct value. And I will just rebel, or do that shit right there. If I disagree with somebody wholeheartedly, I could be around them forever. As long as they, don't discredit everything that I say. And there have been times where people just laugh. Well, then they're not the type of person I want to be with in that way, because you can laugh at it, but if you can't laugh with the idea, then you can't, you couldn't form up with it. You couldn't have, like I said, the force of life stronger in me than the desire for death. It is that which makes a slave right there. Sometimes, though, that choice, when all our choices are denied to carry on, the Matrix Reloaded, the problem is choice. When you look at the Matrix Reloaded, that's what they were talking about. The problem being choice. When all your choices are denied, that's which makes a slave, Because if you have a desire for death, then you are a slave, And in any form, a desire for death. That means that you honestly are okay with thinking about death and thinking in negative forms, thinking in depression. You're okay with that. So that means that you're a slave. You've already given up, Because if the force of life isn't there in you, well, what's the point? You shouldn't be upset that you're a slave then. Because, and I look at that psychologically, realistically throughout the history. If you're happy with it, don't complain about it. Literally you shouldn't, because you're never going to change that point of view, even if you weren't a slave. So let's say you get away from being a slave. Doesn't matter. The slavery is going to come back again because you've accepted your mental state. Ending slavery in the so-called form that we did in the worlds, meaning America not only. There was slavery before America and every other type, of course. But no matter what, it's the mental state you're in. That's what creates slavery. It's nothing else. It's not that Africa started with their own people. That doesn't matter. Or even looking at what other countries did with Africans. There was a lot of history back then, even before America got involved. But America wasn't around forever. America hasn't been around that long, technically, compared to the history of the other countries and stuff. if we look at it in that form, all that stuff, it creates the slave right there. That's it. And I think that's what really, when I look at it, when I see this, the force of life stronger than me, the desire for death. If you have a desire for death, why even spend the time living? If you really have a desire for death, why not rebel? Why not listen to yourself? That's when I look at it, when I see people depressed or, just in that very negativity and whatever, I always wonder, well, if you really think, if you'd really rather die, then go out with a bang. Go out with what you truly feel, because at least you will. It may be something, siding with the Joker from The Dark Knight or something, but it is true. I'm not saying you have to go that far or do something that, drastic, rob banks or do some huge violent act. I'm not asking for that. I'm not even mentioning that. You don't even have to inflict punishment on other people to understand it. You just have to do what you want to do. Because at that point, your desire for death is huge. So, pretty much you can settle yourself into a lifespan of death, which means that you could die like that because you want to. I think humans are powerful enough to do that by their own damn selves. We have that kind of spirituality in us. If we want to die, we want to die. No one else is going to hold us back from it. Because you can't change other people's attitudes about being good. When we hear all the time that, humans are capable of so much good. Well, no, humans are capable of so much bad, so much evil. And they do it every day, so I got a lot more proof of that. Got proof of that every second. Right now, when I'm talking to you guys, sadly, there's probably a ton of bad things that people are doing. In high positions or low positions, doesn't matter. To me, it's all bad, It's nothing makes it less worse or more worse, Because you could label it all you want and say, well, that person should know better in that kind of position. Well, no, they shouldn't. That's what we've accepted. We've accepted that kind of corruption at that kind of level. The fact is, we didn't stop Iran-Contra. We didn't stop a lot of stuff that occurred. We let it happen. Just because we found out about it, we let it happen. So, it's okay now. We didn't go back or do anything about it. Or, in fact, we didn't ask for more people to come out and speak about it. Nobody did. Because that's what it'll take. It's like the Matrix Reloaded when Neo was talking to the creator of the Matrix. The problem is choice. Yeah, it is. But the reason why the problem is choice is because that's all you see. You only see two choices. And if you allow somebody else to make you believe those are the only choices, that's the problem. There you go. There's no other problem except the fact that you believe there's only two choices. You gotta, get rid of that construct that person has created, which is two-sided. Why was Neo created in the first place? Because they needed something else to wipe out the rest of the problems in the Matrix. Well, guess what? The real problem is the creator. He's only made paths of two. That's it. He made the system based on two sides only. Yes or no, white or black. But that's not enough. That's why the problem is choice, because yes, you can pick the better choice. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be fallout. But that's the point right there, is that even the movie gives it a gratifying sort of shell of integrity. As if taking one choice is going to... He saves Trinity and that's the end of the story and everything turns out pretty well. The thing is, that's not how it really is. Even most people say that we pick the less of two evils. Well, guess what? That doesn't mean we have Trinity right there on one side. We don't. We don't have Trinity on either side. All we have is Agent Smith and Agent Smith over here. That's all. If we want to look at it in that form. Because that's all we got. We don't have, a less of two goods. Imagine that. Either you pick the good or the less good. Imagine people saying that. And that's what it really comes down to with choices and a lot of stuff like that, is that people can't escape from that. But that's what makes you a slave too. It's not only the desire for death, but it's the fact that if you think in choices that are already outlined, that are already implemented, right there, you've given yourself up. You're a slave. You're a slave to something that maybe you don't even truly believe. That you're not expressing a lot of your own feelings, your own actions, your own not only opinions and judgments, but your own rules that you have in your head. Everybody has them. Everybody has them. It's not about morality. It's not about keeping yourself in check. It's about knowing where to go and what to do. Because no matter what, we could speak bad about anarchy, say nihilism, say it's going to be about violence and blowing up buildings and stuff, which is what most people think, when in fact it's actually you knowing that there's more than just two choices, and there's more than just a desire for death. Because that's what we live in, a desire for death generation and world right now. We live in a desire for death world. Why do you think there is protests and people being violent in all countries? Because they want to die. They're tired of it. They're tired of this world of lies. Do you think Syria is doing this because these people are against each other? They're just tired of lies. All of them. They're tired of all these other people involving themselves in something that they want to answer for themselves. They're tired of all these people disguised as good people coming in and saying, we're going to fix this mess up, and then killing innocent people. Every single time. And nothing changes. Nobody sees it. Nobody does anything about it. And when people speak out about it, like Julian Assange, if you want to bring him up, I'm not putting him up on pedestal, but I am saying this. Look at Edward Snowden. If somebody like Edward Snowden comes out, why can't all these other people from NSA come out and say these things? Why? Do you think it's going to mean anything? He even said it's pretty useless. But he wouldn't be useless if a ton of people came out from every institution and revealed all the unhandedness that's going on. None of them would be useless if they all came out. But they have to. It's the only way. You can't scrap for paychecks anymore. Especially in this kind of world. If you think all these people are doing protests because, or going out and being violent in Turkey and all these other countries because their system is corrupt, it's because the world is. It's not only the system. They feel the world there. This is the trash we live in. This is the desert of the real, as the last one of the greater philosophers from the 20th century said. This is the desert of the real, as they showed in the beginning of the first Matrix. All this is desert of the real. We don't have anything else left here. So there are people who are going to fight for that real. Because that's all we got left. The rest of it is just desert. There's no substance behind any of this anymore. That's the problem. Yet people see the substance as the material. But outside of that, in front of that, behind that, they don't see anything else. They just see the material. And I think that's what I saw from the Matrix, Reloaded especially. Love it. And the problem is choice in that way, because if all you see is a choice, if all you see is that alone, and that's all you want to see, then you've accepted the choice. You've made a choice to accept those choices only. And you've never accepted the fact that there's a billion other doors. Or whatever. Whatever number you want to bring up. But there's more than two. That's all I'm going to say. There's more than two. Or there's less. If you want to see it the other way, that there's only one way to go. To be honest, even one way actually shows you have more choices. Because you're actually making yourself think for yourself. Instead of using obvious, motives of division. You're allowing one path to be it. And that's it. No division. Because basically, this proves that all the other systems that are so-called communist at times, that were never really communist. They just were labeled as such because we didn't want to deal with them anymore. So we labeled them a certain thing, and they weren't even close to that system at all. Certain ones are. But maybe that's only one. But that's about it. The rest of them were just labeled as such because we didn't want to ruin our own integrity by showing the bads of what could happen to our system. Of what does happen to our system, let's say. Because that's what really does happen. We could say all we want that it won't happen that way. Well, it won't happen that way if everybody shuts up, of course. If everybody just listens to the police state and everything else, no problems at all. We'll be fine. But eventually it breaks down. Because you can't use force to make a system last. Ever. That never works. Like if you ask me what happened to the Roman Empire, it was the people. But they destroyed it themselves by allowing people allowing the people in power to use force on them to keep the system alive. So it's two sides. Because people were too weak to do what they truly wanted to do. and not think outside of that or inside of that, of the system they're in. They allowed somebody else to take advantage. Not to say they should have, but they did. And the people should have known that already. So it's the people's faults right there, because the people knew that they were being taken advantage of. And right here and there, they should know that. Whether they're inside of it or outside of it, they should know that. And they didn't care. That's what creates problems right there. If you don't care, why are you even speaking out against it? Why even bring a voice out if you don't care? So I don't look at it like they're big people, but I do look at it as if they will have to matter if a lot of people come out. That's when it counts. That's when it really does count. Especially if it's continuous. I'll lose my job for this. I'll lose my job for this. Will you? I mean, does it really count that much to fix this system? Because literally you have to sacrifice yourself. No one else is going to. The people in power are not going to sacrifice themselves for us. The fact is, it's been going on like this for years. You're telling me these people are going to do something about it? They wouldn't sacrifice themselves for anything else but themselves, selfishly. For the greed, for everything else that they could get ineptly in the lifetime they live. Temporally, of course. But see, that doesn't mean anything, because that doesn't help anybody else. That doesn't help the roundabout. The roundabout still gets kicked in the ass on us. So, the hope that people hold on to is stupid. The fear that people hold on to is even more stupider. But the fact that people believe that somebody else is going to sacrifice themselves in vain for what they don't want to do. I have, but I have because I personally felt it was at times the best thing to do. Because at least somebody will learn something later on in life, possibly. And most of them did, actually. I think all of them did. I just had to leave because it was a pretty much a stupid friendship at that point, because they didn't want to hear my voice. Here you go, guys. Pink Cloud Radio in the house. Death King style, of course. But right there, that's the whole point, is that if you need to wait for approval or disapproval or judgments, if you need to wait around for these kind of things to be the marinating form of how you think or how everybody acts, then I'll just leave the room. I don't need to be there, you know. I think there's a standstill with many people. I'm fine with anybody, and I definitely will hang out with anybody. But at a certain point, if it's not somebody who wants to hear me, like the way I usually talk like this, it's going to end. And I mean, or it's just going to be that. I'm going to be very quiet because it's sort of pointless, because I'm a person who likes to talk. Not a person who just wants you to believe what I believe. That's the stupid way to think. You know, if you never thought of ideas, then of course you're going to assume. If you never thought of these ideas, then of course you're going to assume and suppose that I want you to feel the same way. You're an idiot. Sorry, I just have to say. Because I think differently. It doesn't mean I want you to think the same way. I want you to think for yourself, thank you. Now, if you think thinking for yourself is believing everybody else, that's not my fault. And you shouldn't be angry with me because I think differently. But it's okay if you do. You'll be gone soon, because I don't need somebody around who treats me like that. Because I never asked you to change what you think about. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to say, hey, you should look at that more, though, because when has that happened before in history? You show me, literally, you should look at it more deeply than just saying that, oh, it happens like that. I never heard any other fire happening like that ever. I never heard anything like that happening ever. And whether it was an inside job, I could care less. But the fact is, if other things were involved, I actually don't think it's an inside job. I think it's both inside and outside. We sleep with our enemies, but that's all I believe. We, meaning the people in power, of course, because, they don't want to sacrifice themselves in vain to fix this country. They want to sacrifice themselves in vain to hurt this country. And that's an easier thing to do. Easy way out, of course. And he who numbers but does not name, it is he who heralds the coming tragedy. It's true. So that's what I think about math. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that complete math can be bad. There are certain things that can be used well, but I don't think it's necessary. But that's my decision on it. I'm not saying that there can't be any value in it. There definitely can. I can see a lot of value in it, but I can also see a lot of control in it. Which means that It's hard to see the value in something when it can be used in that way. Especially the way it has been used discreetly even. Because they can hide it in the numbers. Stock market, for example. You look at that. Impossible equations. Which means that they wanted it that way. The people who work there, the people who act there, the people who instituted it, Federal Reserve or whatever. You already have the kind of institution that premeditates the decisions. That not only premeditates the decisions, invest in it. And doesn't put money into something it can't get money back in. So we live off of the fact if somebody else makes money. So everything will be fine as long as they make money. Once they don't, Federal Reserve might call it in like they did in 1929. Depression sets in. But that's alright. Because as long as they make money, we're okay. But that's the issue right there, is that that's not democracy then. Because if we live off the fact that somebody else has to make money, that's not, accepting competition, accepting new businesses to come into form. No, that's saying that one has to prevail over the others. That one or two or whatever number has to prevail. Has to get something out of it. No, if you gain, you gain. If you lose, you lose. That's it. Up and down, up and down. You all have to deal with that scale. But see, that's the issue. That shows that we're not a democracy or even a republic at that point, because right there we've disintegrated and said, all is all, one is one. But that's more like communism right there. And Council on Foreign Relations, if you look at it deeply, there's a lot of communistic values in it. But that's alright. As long as they make money in the investments, we're fine. We could believe this is a democracy no matter what. Because as long as they make money in their investments, we're fine, everybody. As long as they keep on chugging in those numbers. But the coming tragedy is going to come. It won't come from any terrorist. It won't come from the Twin Towers collapsing. It'll come from a lot worse. I wish it was as easy as to blame China, Iraq, Afghanistan. Please, I wish. I wish it was so easy to blame the outside. Man, do I wish so. And I do. I'm not saying that those people haven't got involved with us at all. Of course, I think we're nice friends in the bed, having sex till we're dead. I'm not. That's why a lot of my friends left, because I didn't want to be friends with my enemies in that way. Although technically I didn't feel like they were enemies, but I felt like they would have taken advantage and done something to me because of my, kindness and being nice. And I felt that, I felt that at times when it was really bad. And I was like, they're doing this right now, which means they could do a lot worse. Now, at times, I did deal with it, because I wanted to see, okay, I'm going to do this because I personally want to. So I tried. I tried to make Shane's friendship last with me. I tried to make Rena's friendship last with me, and it has now. We've done well. With Rena, I mean. And same thing with other people, like Mary, like Sandy even. And there was a lot of people. And other ones, I just knew that they were done with it. And I was like, if I come back, it's going to be more of the same. And it's not more of the same like accepting, loving. It's more like, now I'm going to put you in this fire pit. Well, thank you very much. I'm already in one. Actually, I'm more like in probably 1 billion of fire pits at this point. Maybe more. Maybe an infinite amount of fire pits. Because it's hard to get out of these things. They recycle well, sadly. Yeah. And I think that's what I mean by he who numbers but does not name. If you don't name something, where's the value in it? And it's not like a name meaning like my name Marcello or something, or Pink Cloud Radio or something. It's more like, is there any value in what you're doing? If you just coin the term, what does it mean to you? or just use very small decisive marks, Does it have any value to you, Does it have any value? Or are you just saying, well, I can't make value of this now? And maybe that's what I see in the world right now, in that many people will face reality that they have to protect their own. But the thing is, you can't really have a government then, because you would have to only have individual families protecting themselves. Because why would I trust somebody that has to protect their own? When I see it around, this is a protect your own generation, I think. So that means that I can't have a government around me. They're always going to protect their own. Why would I want somebody protecting their own in control? They're not going to have the same value on them as they are on me. And they're going to have more freedom than me because they have the words and the context and the verbs and the kind of everything that they would need to keep security for themselves, if you're going into a place and you're getting everything, what are you going to give everybody else? As I see with Obama, it's the same thing like any other president. And sadly, it's worse, because there's a lot more that he's already detained from us that will now, Guantanamo Bay not closed, Obamacare forced on people. Hey, what a wonderful thing. Now everybody who can't afford it has to pay. There are a lot of people who wanted individual changes to healthcare. We didn't ask for a whole reform. Just to be direct about it. Yes, we did not ask for a whole reform. But we're not going to be listened to, of course. No way. We'll just get people to critique it on the news programmings on Sunday and such, and that'll be all. We won't have anything else to do with it. We won't get other people who are upset about it to speak, because that doesn't matter. Or we'll label them. We'll say, well, you don't want everybody to have health care? Well, if you want to put me down like that, yes. I don't, because I don't think a lot of people take care of themselves well and shouldn't be forced to pay. If they truly have problems, they got to take care of themselves. Sorry. But if they truly have health problems that can't be helped on their own, that's a different story. Heck, we should even pay everything for them because we caused it. There you go. You look at it, a lot of these health issues weren't around before America came around. Just saying. I don't remember these terms before. Not an alienist here, but I definitely know that. And, that's really the point of all this. It's like when people say they will get theirs. I always ask, did you get yours? And did you get what you wanted? Or what was supposed to come back to you? Or did you get rewarded for what you did? Or what happened? That's, when people say, oh, they will get theirs. They'll get theirs. Well, why should I believe that? Just because you say it? Just because you say karma? I always think of it that way, because I look back at what I just said earlier about people accepting that they're slaves in a certain extent, where they, have a desire for death, or they carry the two-choice system that is around them. How can you get karma if you accept the bad? I mean, if you kind of think about it, what would be something karmatic to that? Being treated well? But then the karma is the fact that you would only hurt a person who treats you well. Like, if you literally think about it, that's... What is the treatment of somebody who is treating people bad? What would be the karma to that? Nothing. Because unless the world turns over a new leaf, so to speak... there's nothing you can really do for that, you know what I mean? Unless it does it on its own effect, where the system collapses, everything goes bye-bye. That'd be nice, and it doesn't have to be violent, it doesn't have to be anything. In fact, it could just be death of the whole humanity. Not in that way of apathy or misanthropy, but if nobody wants to do anything, something's got to give, and it's mostly us, but at a certain point, it's not going to be us anymore, because we're not going to be here anymore. There's nobody fighting. There's nobody doing anything. There's nobody not believing or not stepping away from the system. And not to say that there isn't any one person that's doing that. There is. There are people who are doing that. And there are people who are saying things badly and bringing out information. And that's good. But it doesn't mean much unless everybody does it. Unless everybody would sacrifice themselves in vain for something that important. Because it wouldn't be in vain if it really was done in record numbers. It's not in vain if everybody does it, But if you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to, what's the point? You know that there's something wrong, and you allow it to continue. Well, it's up to you. You have a right to do that, but you are believing that there's only two choices again, and you're going back to that there's only two choices when there really is only one choice, and you know the one choice that you have to do, and you're not doing it. You're not doing it because you still have to scrap for what you need. But what do you need? Because the only way, and it goes back to that. If you allow people to die, well, people, there'll be a certain point where people won't accept it anymore. Well, they'll say, you got to stop. These people mean what they mean because they're sacrificing their lives in that way. They're giving up all they have to tell us this stuff. And that's what would really count to me. But yeah, it really does come down to that, and I'm not making fun of it. I'm not saying that, oh, well, people are going to sacrifice themselves. People are already doing that. Yeah. But it's going to take something like that because it's like karma. Like I said, did you get what you wanted or what was supposed to come back to you, Because that's always a good question to ask when you really think about it. Did you get what you wanted? From karma or whatever? Or what was supposed to come back to you because of what you did? Or did you get rewarded for it? Because if you got rewarded for it, you can't really say karma's going to come back to somebody. You're the one that is the karma right there. But you're an asshole of karma, of course. Because you're using karma as your own bitch. But it will never work in that way for you. And that's why you're being an asshole, because you're not getting your way. So you're going to be an asshole to everybody else because karma's not helping you. Well, it won't help you if you're being a bitch about stuff. If you're being an asshole about stuff and you want to get things your way. And that's the thing about even sex and options, if you look at it that way. That a lot of people want that sex and options, and they want to be able to have sex with whoever they fucking please. That's fine. I ain't putting it down, but it's not going to work out with everybody. And you're not going to get anybody you want, And there are a lot of people who would say, well, there's a lot of people that can have sex with whoever they want, and anybody would have sex with them. True, but that's not you. If you want to be somebody else, that's your problem, If you're not satisfied with what you are as an individual, hey, nobody else's problem there. Can't even blame that person because maybe that person is a lot of people think that person is attractive. And you can't stop them from liking or having an attraction to that person. That's what they feel. It doesn't mean everybody feels that way. And I think, to me personally, that's the representation that I see from it. Especially that kind of stuff. That's very powerful, Because, heck, a lot of people get rewarded for doing bad, It's funny that people say karma comes back to people, but does it come back to hurt the good or the bad? It's a good question, What does karma do? Does it actually hurt people that do good, even if they're treated badly? Or does it hurt people that do bad to good? Which one is it? Because if it's hurting me, for example, when I do something good, what do I care? It's only the bad that think of me in a bad way. They already did before that. So technically, they've never changed their point of view. It's always been in a bad way. They've always thought of it in a bad way. Like, for example, me not having sex, people would say, oh, what an asshole that guy is. That guy doesn't know anything about any relationship I've had because he hasn't had sex. He doesn't know anything about attachment. Yeah, right, I wish I didn't. Why do you think I got rid of a lot of friendships? They didn't want that attachment. There you go. And yeah, you know what? If it stands in the way, then it never was supposed to be. It never was supposed to stay. Because you wouldn't be bothered by that shit if you truly wanted to be there. If you have other personal issues and other things that happen at home, that's a different story. I ain't calling you out on that. But if you're calling me out on being something that I am, that's why I'm gone. Because it's pretty useless to be there if all you're going to do is point out the way I am. And saying, well, it kind of threatens the kind of person you are. So what? You always think the way you do. I don't stop you from thinking that way. I may bring up different ideas, but it doesn't mean I don't think you should think the way you do. I just want to make sure that you're thinking for yourself. That's all. I don't need these people to prove my point. I see it in what you and what I see around me. Like one of the persons I know is apathetic, I'm like, that proves positive that something like this 9/11 could be an inside job. Could be even worse than that. Could be all these nations working together and just killing off the people down beneath them, like with the brazen bull. That's what happened with the brazen bull. The person who created it first killed with it, and he created it for the person that was king, the person that was in charge. Yet he was the first one put into it. Well, what's that? Right there and then, that proves that the underlings, the people underhandedly, will take advantage of that. So you help somebody, you get hurt for it. You try to create a good form of respect with a person up there, and they kill you for it. Right there. That's the proof positive that you shouldn't trust the system, because the system can dominate you even if you help it. Even if you help it. You can't redecide, but you can't. You can redecide, but you can't undecide. It's true. So you can redecide. I definitely can see that. I've changed my decision. Well, of course you can do that, because a lot of people do that in the system. No problem there. A lot of people do that with the system around us. It's true. I mean, it's sad, though, that people would do it that vivaciously, that crazily, But a lot of people do that. They decide to. They decide to make it proclaim that we're in a free system of choice, and yet all they do is choose between two. There you go. So you can redecide, but you can't undecide. I've undecided this. Can't do that. But at the same time, you can not decide either. And I've not decided. No thanks. And I think that's the real point of this, is that what I've seen from the system, and generally speaking at all, is mostly controls, and mostly seeing the kind of identity that we're living in. What people mean to each other in that way. That having, either a majority rule or something like that, it can't really work unless the majority does rule. It doesn't. The people that work there are not, even part. As such, most of them live to a point where they don't need to vote like that. There you go. That should prove right there that this isn't a majority rule system. Because if it was, people who actually voted that way would be in there. Most of them do not. They just punch the numbers. Punch the numbers. Think about that. You punch the numbers only. How much could you care? You don't. And I'm not saying there's not one person who cares or something. Of course, there's people who see past that shit and say how much bullshit this is. And they're still in it. But at least they're speaking out about it, and they're probably voting in a way where they're trying to at least change things, elicit some kind of cause. But that's hard to do when not a majority not a group or an established few will start coming out, and more will too. It's like the identity of like a rapist or something. You get a rapist, you have a lot of people come out from that rapist, saying that I was raped, those kind of things. If you don't have a ton of those people coming out, you have a very hard and sketchy case to prove. Because you're basically saying that this person's a rapist, but we only have 2 or 3 people that actually can say so. Maybe 2. Well, that's not much. Especially how long this person would have been out in the world, it would really show like, well, that's possible because this person probably was raped multiple times over here. That's possible. But at the same time, if it's somebody that, well, this would be a difficult thing without other people knowing this is happening, especially family members and such like that, there's a huge amount of detail that would be avoided just to prove this is true. Well, then it's not true, because you can't avoid those issues. Those issues are there, and they've always been there. So if you're ignoring that stuff, that means that you don't want to touch that. You don't want to touch that subject. But that subject is most important. It's like the way I look at the Michael Jackson case. I think more in the fact that there were a ton of people that worked at Neverland Ranch. It wasn't like that place was empty. And only kids and Michael Jackson were there. Even in the room. So to have that occur, the moms or the dads were there, for example, of the kids. And they were free to go about and be with the kids, be with Michael if they wanted, anything. They got along pretty well with everybody from what I've heard. So to have, well, this happened over here, well, then somebody else would have heard it. Somebody else would have had that experience. You know, and, you know, you could pay people off pretty well to lie, too. Or not say anything. There you go. Or, easier way, we'll kill you if you do anything. If you try to say anything for his cause, for saying that he's not. I mean, that's all you need to do. All you need to do is threaten people. You know, we're in a bullying and revenge generation. Do I really need to say if somebody's innocent or guilty? No. All I need to do is threaten somebody and they're guilty. And now, you can't be silent when you're arrested. They don't read you the Miranda rights. No more Miranda rights anymore. You can't be silent because that's a sign of guilt now. What a wonderful thing. I can't be silent. I always have to speak now. Because they want to hear me say something that could put me potentially away. Even if I'm not guilty. Well, what a wonderful thing. Now I'm guilty before I'm proved innocent. There we go. That's a wonderful way of a system right there. That's freedom right there. Make somebody guilty before, even if they're innocent. There you go. I'll be in prison very soon, everybody. Just like everybody. You know, right there and then. What else do you need? You know? But I think that's what really shows how our system, how the world is, how the force of life is stronger in me. Because I'm speaking about this stuff. You know, I'm not detaching myself from the subject. That, you know, the desire for death, I don't care. Death will come. You know, I'd have no desire for it, but I have no ill will towards it either. Because I don't know what it is. The hell, what, am I going to hate death? Oh God, I hate that I have to die. Wish I could live forever. I don't know about that. Haven't done that either, so I don't know which one. I don't know which one is a better term, better way to act, better way to be. You know, that's hard to say, because I wouldn't know exactly where to go with that shit. But you know, that makes us a slave, though. When you do that, when you make that choice, when you decide to say desire for death is so important. You know, when you make that sort of like a alluring quality, the lust to it or something in a way. It's like I said with The Matrix Reloaded, that's what it was about. The problem being choice. The problem really being that Neo failed. He failed in all ways, you know. And that's why I like the trilogy in a way, because it showed a different way of winning. You fail, and then you succeed. You fail a lot. Because technically he prevailed in the first one, but he didn't really, because he did something he wasn't supposed to do, really. You know, Smith only attacked him. The fact is, there was no conceptual reason for him to kill Smith in the first movie. In that first storyline, because he didn't do anything to him. He really didn't. He had been after him, but that's it. There's nothing that created that moment at the end, except himself. And that's why the second one turned out the way it did, because it was to show, do you have the free will here? No, you don't. There's a purpose for all this too. You know, that means that you can't just do whatever the fuck you want, you know, destroying Smith and think he's going to just be gone. This is about free will here. And then the third one did a complete opposite turn and said, everything's ambiguous. And it's true. Because at the end of the day, everything turns ambiguous if you try to just destroy everybody else. If you try to say your ideas are worthless. I'm not saying that about the system, but the system is pretty worthless. Not the ideas of the system, but the system. The way it is now. Developed in concrete. That's all it is. It's just concrete cement. I don't even want to use a jackhammer on it. It's not even worth destroying. It's already destroyed itself by creating that concrete. It has. And that's why we have numbers on people. And that's why all this shit turns out the way it does. You know? This coming tragedy. It's already here. The tragedy's here. I'm not even saying that with negativity. I'm looking at it right in its face. You know, well, they'll get theirs. You always get rewarded. Why do you keep on saying they'll get theirs? Don't give me aspirations to think that somebody's going to actually get hurt for doing something bad. You know, Most people get rewarded for it. It's a nice ideal to believe that somebody will get hurt for it, but it's not going to happen that way. But it's a nice thing to say. Thank you so much for trying to make me think in a hope and change way, but I never will. Only thing that's going to change things is this desire and strength to be strong with the force of life. That's it. Like I said, you can redecide, but you can't undecide. And you could be totally decisionless too. And that's where I am right now. This is the strength of Marcello, the Pink Cloud Radio. So take care, all. Love.